Okay, so the title of this video, I know it seems really over the top, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It is exactly as it says. Fist me for $100. I never thought I'd be actually saying that line to you guys, but it reminded me of a story back when I was in high school. And funny enough, the story that I'm about to tell you guys, I literally got reminded by on a live stream I did literally the other day on Twitch. So I am actually currently live on Twitch if you guys don't know. So click the link down in the description below and join me live right now as I'm talking to you guys and telling stories like this one. And on top of that, guys, haven't already, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. Let's shoot for 1,000 likes on this video because it seriously means a lot when that happens. And other than that, let's get into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another crazy video. So today's video, funny enough, it's honestly a lot. And by a lot, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, high school is one of the most craziest things you guys will ever experience. No matter what, no matter how old you get, you will always remember high school as one of the most weirdest things possible. Because if you think about it, middle school is when kids start to hit puberty, and when you go to high school, that is when you're full on in your prime of puberty, meaning hormones are the most active they've ever been. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, for guys, yeah, we know what guys do. You know, if you guys that are watching this video right now, you know that we hit hormones like crazy. But as for girls, well, it's a different story for them. For girls, I think they hit maturity faster than guys. And honestly, sometimes some girls just don't hit that maturity level. And this one time, I remember I was walking down the hallway of my school, and I remember my buddy comes up to me saying, "Yo, bro, like there's this girl I really want you to meet. She's really energetic. She's really good, and I think you'll like her." In my head, I'm thinking, oh, okay, like, you know, sure, why not? Because my buddy knows that I'm always like, you know, looking for a chick to, you know, do the devil's tango with. So I straight up said, okay, like I'm down, like I'll just follow you and show me where she is. So I follow him throughout the school, and I remember we ended up going to the auto shop. Now, if you guys don't know what the auto shop is basically where you can learn how to be a mechanic, learn how to, you know, deal with cars and all that cool stuff. It's actually really exciting. Anyways, I remember I go in there, and I remember I start like, you know, basically looking around for this girl that my friend wanted me to meet. And I remember he drags me to this one girl that was under a car. So all I saw was her legs, and she was wearing like booty shorts, which was a major W because she had a really nice peach. But going on, I remember I ended up walking up, and she saw me from below. She saw my shoes at least, and I was wearing some pair of Air Forces because that's what every kid wore that time. And I remember she slides out from under and says, "Oh, hi." I look at her, and she's actually not that ugly. She's actually like a pretty like decent, attractive girl. Other than her missing a tooth, like she was decent. So I remember I looked at her, and I'm like, "Oh, hi, like what's up? My name's Bubba." You know, I tried to play it cool. My friend looks at me, and he's like, "He's the guy who does a lot of the devil's tango." And I remember I looked at him like, "Bro, like quiet, bro. Like that's weird, bro. Don't be weird, champ Andy." The girl looks at me and giggles, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I heard you have like a lot of experience around the school." Whatever that means. Like, dude, I didn't do the entire school. I only did like, I don't know, maybe 60% of them. Like, relax. Anyways, going on. I remember this girl looked at me, and she was just talking to me about cars and stuff, and how she was like a car girl, and she loves a Miata and all that cool stuff. And I was like, oh, like, that's cool and stuff. Like me, I'm not a big car fanatic, but I know my cars. You know, I'm manly enough to know my cars. So I was talking to her about cars, and I told her I drove a Celica. If you guys don't know, at the time I drove a Toyota Celica. It's my baby. I love it so much. It's on my Instagram. If you guys want to follow my Instagram and see it yourself, go for it. It was a really good car, and I remember I pulled it up to show her to the auto shop, and she loved it. She's like, "Oh my goodness, this car's so cool." I'm like, "Thanks. Yeah, I put LEDs in it, you know, like the typical kid in high school would." And she looked inside of it, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, can we go for a ride after school today?" I looked at her, and I looked at her peach, and I'm like, yeah, 100%. I'm down. She looks at me all smiling and all excited, and she added me on Snapchat, and throughout the whole entire rest of the school day, she was texting me on Snap. She's like, "Oh my goodness, like how much horsepower is your car?" "It's stock." "OMG, like did you do anything to your car?" "It's stock." "Oh my goodness, you should like change the color of it. Did you like change it? Is it like always been blue?" "It's the stock color." Like I didn't know what to tell this girl, bro. It was just a basic Toyota Celica. As much as the car can be modified and loved with, it's a basic car, girl. Relax. Anyways, I remember after school came, and she came into my car, and she like sat in my car, and she loved it. She instantly just fell in love with it. She kept looking at my dashboard. She kept looking at everything. And this girl, I'm not gonna lie, kind of dealt with it kind of rough. I don't know what was up with this girl, but this girl was like really rough. Like I remember while I was driving, she like grabbed my arm all of a sudden, and she like squeezed my arm. Like she had like man strength. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't mean to sound sexist in any way, but she had like some kind of Superman strength, and it was weird champ Andy. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't even have that kind of strength. I mean, for a girl who works on cars all day, I guess it made sense. Anyways, I remember she grabbed my arm, and I remember we ended up going to get some food. We got some McDonald's because hell, who doesn't love McDonald's in high school? It's cheap, it's easy, it's a win-win scenario. And I remember we drive up to this viewpoint. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, out of all the devil's tango I've done, a lot of it has been on this viewpoint. This viewpoint was very popular for, you know, teenagers to go up and do the devil's tango when you get your license. So I remember I drove this girl up there. We ended up sitting up there, and we ended up eating our McDonald's and watching the view. And this is where things get worse. I remember as I'm eating my, you know, my wrap, and she's eating her burger, I remember this girl ate like a pig. Like I'm not joking. I'm not one to make fun of women for how they eat. The girl's like, if you don't use a napkin and you have stuff drooping all over your face, and it's just ultimately disgusting, I'm not gonna be attracted to you. It's common sense. So I remember I looked over, and this girl was like spilling in my car. It was just disgusting. Like, it was the disgusting of the disgusting. And I remember I looked at her and I'm like, do you want a napkin? She looked at me. She's like, I'm all good. I'm all good. Dude, absolutely disgusting. Like, you guys have no idea. Anyways, I remember I ended up, like, you know, cleaning up my car, putting the garbage away. And, you know, as I put the garbage away, I remember I sat back in my car and we started looking at the view. It was getting towards sunset. It was more of a romantic time. And I remember I looked at her. I'm like, so, like, you know, like, any ex-boyfriends? I usually ask this question to a lot of girls about if they have ex-boyfriends, because it's good to know what baggage a girl has. Because let's be real here. Nowadays, every girl has done some guy or had some kind of emotional damage. Either they pull the I'm depressed card, or, you know, they just go totally emo, or they go gay. I mean, it's a good choice. Anyways, I was talking to her and I was talking to this girl, and I remember the one thing she told me that really made me feel off. She looked at me and said, nah, none of that. No man can handle me. Whatever that means. I looked at her and I'm like, okay, relax. Like, calm your ego, okay? This is me we're talking about. I probably have more Devil's Tango experience than you. And she looks at me, she's like, oh, really now? And I look at her and I'm like, yeah, 100% I do. Then she looks at me and says, do you want to test that? I remember I look at her and I'm like, what do you mean? Test that? What does that even mean? She pulls out her wallet and she's like, I bet you $100 that you won't fist me. What? This girl wanted me to get my whole entire fist. Like, people that are watching this video, literally put your fists into like a full-on fist motion, like you're gonna punch someone, and think about shoving it up your butt. Yeah, that's literally what she wanted me to do to her. Yeah, I looked at her and I like had my eyes wide open and I'm like, are you serious? She looks at me, she's like, yep, do it right now. I remember this girl starts taking off her pants and I'm like, oh, okay, whoa. I'm not actually gonna do that. Like, whoa, relax. She looks at me, she's like, see, I knew you were vanilla. Vanilla? Did you just call me a vanilla? Did you call me a shake? Yeah, I don't know these slang terms that kids have nowadays. It makes ultimately no sense, but this girl saying that I was vanilla is ultimately just cringe. I probably have 10 times more experience than her still to this day. I remember I look at her and I'm like, okay, you need to relax. You need to put the $100 away. I'm not gonna do that. And she's like, I'll give you $1,000 for me to do it to you. What? Bro, I remember I was panicking. I'm like, you're not touching anywhere near this peach, bro. Are you serious right now? I was disgusted. I was panicking. I'm like, you need to stop. You need Jesus. Like, I'm not joking, guys. Like, this was a major concern for me. So I remember I look at the girl and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drive you home. You need to leave. I remember I drove her home and I remember I saw her cars in the parking lot and stuff. Apparently she works at Cars at Home, and I told this girl, you need to calm down and you need to like find some other kinks to like. The girl looks at me, she's like, oh, like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just so vanilla. Like, every guy's done it to me. What? You're telling me every guy you've ever seen or hung out with fisted you? Are you serious right now? Yeah, I don't know. That girl was like majorly psycho, and to this day I don't want to talk to her, nor do I talk to her, because, you know, it's weird champ Andy. But at the end of the day, you know, it is what it is. It's how it is, and you know what? I'm kind of done with it.
Okay, so before we get this video started, I just want to say in no way am I a prostitute. Like, I get there are people out there actually do prostitution for like a living, and if you guys don't know what a prostitute is, basically it's someone you pay to literally do the Devil's Tango with you. And I'm gonna be honest, I am in no way one, okay? But this one situation I was in, let's just say it was too good to pass up. But before I get into that, obviously, like I usually say in every video, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. It seriously means a lot when you guys do, and you guys have been loving these stories recently, so we're gonna always continue them. And by the way, yeah, follow me on Twitch if you guys haven't already. Always tell the stories on there, and gonna be yelling with my friends, just, you know, doing crazy stuff on there, so might as well join in. And also join Discord server if you guys have any questions, and also tell me your crazy story on Instagram if you guys do want to follow me on Instagram. Anyways, let's get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this one actually takes place, funny enough, back in high school. This was my grade 12 year. This was me, like, freshly graduated. I was just, you know, getting my piece of paper, feeling like a rock star, and going out, do my own thing. At the time, I, funny enough, had a construction job. It was pretty fun doing construction, you know, doing my thing, you know, lifting that piece of wood. I love it. Whoa, wood. And other than that, you know, I was just doing my main thing and just being myself. Of course, I always spent time on video games and always posted videos here and there on YouTube, but it wasn't my main concern at the time. To be honest, just picking up wood and, you know, doing the Devil's Tango with like hot chicks that I meet is mostly the main gist of what I did back in my graduation year, I guess I should say. But this one time specifically, I remember I went to a party one time, and me and my friends were all just hosting this party. Or I wasn't hosting it, to be honest. Someone else was, but I was there, obviously, and I was a friend of the hosts. And obviously, he was a chill guy, and he was like a decent friend of mine. He wasn't like a good friend of mine because I barely went to his house, but he was a good friend of mine at the time, and I remember I went down there and I hung out with him. He was a chill guy, and I remember he kept telling me about this one chick he was really into. Now, honestly, at first, I'm not gonna lie, this girl sounded phenomenal. She sounded outstanding. But for some reason, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but every hot chick that is so outstanding and so damn beautiful has some weird, unwanted, useless, rude, crazy, ugly woman beside them. Now, I'm not saying that to being sexist anyway. Obviously, guy friends have like, you know, some ugly people in the group as well. Let's just say there's always that one ugly person in a group. And it always ends up being that, like, for example, if you go on a double date or you take them to a party, there's always gonna be that one person that sits on the side and doesn't say anything and basically, well, is known as the ugly one. Now, this could offend some people. I just want to quickly say, like, in no way am I trying to offend anyone. This is just a true fact and statement in the world. And if you guys want to argue about it and cry and say, you know, everyone's special in their own way, just because they have problems doesn't mean they won't find the one. And I agree. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I end up being the ugly person of the group in most groups I'm in. So just don't take offense to it. You guys get the gist. But going on, other than me going on that little rant, I remember he was telling me about this girl and how she had one of those friends. One of those friends that were super not attractive and, well, yeah. Let's just say it did not end up being good. But I remember him telling me as we were sitting down at this party, kind of just hanging out, saying, hey, like, bro, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, there's this really hot girl that's coming, but I'm worried she's gonna bring her friend, and her friend always gets in the way of things and kind of, you know, eggplant blocks me. Like, I just can't, bro. Like, it's annoying. And I look at him and I said, well, like, how, you know, hot is the friend? Because if you need help, like, I don't mind coming in. Then he tells me, no, like, dude, like, seriously, bro, like, you wouldn't do it. Like, you wouldn't. And then obviously me, you know, at the time, I'm not gonna lie, I literally didn't really have standards if I was being realistic. I don't know why. Let's just say it's a long story, but, you know, I asked him again and I said, no, like, seriously, dude, like, how bad is it? He looks at me and says, bro, like, here's a photo of them. And when I look at the photo, I'm not gonna lie, instantly I became uninterested. I was literally just like, nope. But then he looks at me saying, bro, what if I like paid you? I looked at him and I went, what do you mean if you paid me? He looks at me and says, bro, I will literally pay you just to hang out with this girl and just do whatever she wants. I look at him and I'm like, dude, are you really putting me up for prostitution right now? Are you really doing this to me? First, he pulls out $100. Then after that, he pulls out $200. And let's just say it ended up being $500. Literally in his hand, ready to hand to me. I look at him and I'm like, bro, like, you don't have to do that. Like, just dude, like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, that's it. Like, I'm just not gonna do it, man. It's just not my way. It's kind of rude, you know? Paying someone to hang out with them, like, that's not it. It's not cool. And he looks at me again and says, okay. He pulls out another $500. And this man had $1,000 literally in his hands, ready to hand over to me. And damn, God, if I knew, I was literally gonna do this for $1,000. I'm gonna hang out with a chick that I'm very uninterested in for $1,000. So instantly I took the money from his hand and I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it. I'll literally do it. And at that moment, I remember we ended up standing up and going to the door of the party where, you know, basically people were entering, and we met up with this chick that he really liked. When we all met it together, I remember instantly he looked at the girl and said, hey, like, what's going on? How you doing? And instantly I see this girl that was super uninterested in, and, you know, just absolutely, I'm not gonna lie, she was ugly, guys. Literally come in and say, oh, like, how you guys doing? Like, what are you guys up to? And it was just, oh my God. If I could like describe how it was just so weird. Because I remember I was just standing there like, no way, I just did this for $1,000. Like I was just contemplating life on how I literally just picked up $1,000 to hang out with this woman. But I remember we were walking around the party and I was mostly with her and she was, you know, with me, and the other guy and girl were together, and they kind of just cruised off and went out and did on their own thing. But me, I remember I was hanging out with this girl, and this girl was like basically asking me the most dumbest questions. Like, oh, like, did you know like the ear is connected to the brain? So if you got shot in the ear, it would hurt your brain? What? Like, dude, like she would say the most dumbest things throughout the whole night, and I'm not gonna lie, like my brain cells were working at the moment. But I remember after enough drinks, I was literally just super tired and stuff, and to be honest, I was really out of it. To be honest, I did become intoxicated, and since I was like 18, I was underage, so don't drink underage. It's not a good thing to do. But I remember I was intoxicated and I was walking around the party kind of looking for my friend to tell him that, like, you know, I'm done, like I'm wasted and out. And when I walked up to him, he looked at me saying, bro, like, are you drunk? I look at him and I'm like, bro, man, I'm not gonna lie, like I had a lot to drink. I don't think I'm gonna hang out with this girl anymore. He looks at me and he pulls me aside saying, bro, I paid you $1,000 to hang out with her. I kept looking at him like, dude, like I literally can't handle it anymore. Like I'm going to bed. And then he looks at me, he's like, do you want to sleep in my room? I look at him like, oh, like you're offering me a bed? Thanks, man. Me thinking that he was actually offering me a bed, but no, he was offering me a bed for me and the girl, because he ended up handing the keys to his bedroom to literally the girl that I was supposed to hang out with. He gives her the keys, and instantly I was like, oh no, I'm gonna end up sleeping with this girl. Are you serious? Me and her go upstairs and we instantly went on the bed, and she instantly hopped onto me and we started making out. And when she hopped onto me and started making out with me, I'm not gonna lie, like I already felt like I was gonna throw up. Like I just couldn't handle it. But then this girl really badly wanted to do the devil's tango, and I was just not having it. Like I was just not having it, guys. Like she really wanted to do it though. So I remember I told her, just give me a second, like let me go to the bathroom. And I instantly started like walking over to the bathroom, like all like stumbling everywhere as she's literally just taking off all her clothes to getting ready to do the devil's tango. And instantly I'm just in the bathroom mirror looking at myself in the mirror saying, am I really gonna do this right now? Am I really gonna do this right now? And at that moment, I'm not gonna lie, I just couldn't, like, guys, I can't describe it. It was so bad. But I remember I went to the bathroom, I opened the toilet seat, I instantly just gutted out myself basically, and instantly right after that I closed the toilet seat, flushed the toilet, looked at the mirror, motivated myself, got my super ultra mega eggplant ready, and I instantly just went into the room and I did it. I ended up doing the devil's tango with her. Honestly, man, I'm not gonna lie, I think for like 75% of it my eyes were closed. I won't lie to you guys, I think they were, from what I remember at least. I don't know, I was intoxicated like I said earlier. But then I remember as me and her were doing the devil's tango, my friend ended up walking in with her hotter friend, and instantly they saw everything happening. They felt grossed out, they walked out, and me, knowing that they walked in, I ended up pushing her off and saying, I gotta put my clothes on. And instantly, as I was getting my stuff on and everything and putting my clothes on, I go grabbed my wallet that I, you know, put on the side counter, and she saw there was like $1,000 in cash just sitting there. And instantly she asked me, excuse me, why would you bring literally $1,000 to a party? And I look at her and I'm like, you know, that's a good question. And I instantly just walked out of there, knowing I basically got paid to take care of a chick for like an entire night. Was just not it. But I remember I stumbled down the stairs. I ended up walking home because I just did not want to be in that house anymore with that loud music and all that drama, I guess, in my head. And I went home and called it a night. Anyways,
Okay, so I think we all know what Pokemon is, and honestly, if you guys are big Pokemon fans like I am, trust me, this story will piss you off. But I mean, before we do get into the story, I just want to mention, make sure to do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because seriously, it means a lot when you guys do. And anyways, let's just hop straight into this, because honestly, I don't want to waste time. So what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story does take place back when I was actually a very little kid. I believe this was like the year 2011, and I was only 10 years old. Now, 10-year-old me, I won't lie, it was a way different person than what I am today. For example, before, back when I was in 2010, I wasn't really thinking about girls, hanging out at parties, none of that kind of stuff. I was a normal kid. And I won't lie, some of you 10-year-olds nowadays are ultimately the most craziest animals on the planet. Like seriously, some of you guys would even get your first kiss around this age. But for me, I was a bit different. You see, back when I was a kid, I had this major addiction. And this was really bad to the point where I would watch all the movies, watch the show, and on top of that, play all the games. And that was Pokemon. If you guys don't know, around this time, Nintendo was really well known for becoming their Pokemon games. Yes, Mario was a big deal, but Pokemon was becoming the trend of the school. I remember my school was all over Pokemon. Anything that Pikachu was basically the cover of, kids were obsessed with, which I mean, I can't blame them. Pokemon was awesome. But I remember back when it was 2010, one crazy thing about Pokemon that was releasing was Pokemon Black and White, which was one of the games that was released. Now, this is where things get really, really insane. I remember when the new Pokemon game was releasing, everyone, and I mean everyone in my school was obsessed with the Pokemon cards. I swear, in my elementary school, if you didn't have one Pokemon card, you were considered a loser. So I remember I went home and I begged my parents to get me the Pokemon Black and White game, and on top of that, get me Pokemon cards, because you can't just have the game. You need to have the Pokemon cards with it. If you don't have Pokemon cards to end the game, you're basically a loser. And reminder, if you guys don't know how cool Pokemon Black and White is, just remember that Pokemon White right now actually goes on for like $475 Canadian in Amazon right now. So you gotta understand, back then, Pokemon to now is super, super rare. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember one time when I came home and I went to get my Nintendo DS. I had a gray one, by the way, and my sister had the pink one. I remember I basically went up to my sister and said, hey, like, do you want to like go pick up Pokemon? Like, we should go buy some cards. And the reason I would always ask my older sister if she wanted to like go play Pokemon with me and stuff is because whatever my sister wanted, my parents would get her instantly. As for me, well, I had to do some begging to get it. So I remember when I asked her, you want to get some Pokemon cards? I remember for some reason, her side of the school, or her friends at least, didn't think Pokemon cards were really cool. It got to the point where she ended up transferring me all her Pokemon in her game, and on top of that, she started giving me all her Pokemon cards that she used to like before. Which, I mean, I'm not complaining. Free Pokemon cards, no one can really complain at that point. And then afterwards, I remember when I was sitting down one time in the living room playing with Pokemon cards and basically just organizing them. Because let's be real here, when you have a bunch of cards, like, what are you supposed to do? Not organize them? Anyways, I was organizing them in this binder that I made, and basically, I remember my dad walks up to me saying, oh, like, I recognize those things. Those are like those like cool little creatures that like, you
know, you can like fight each other with the paper, right?
I'm like, yeah, Dad, like this is Pikachu. Here's Raichu. Here's all my favorite Pokemon cards. I remember he picked up one of the Pikachu card and he looked at it and he said, that's not Pikachu. I'm like, what do you mean? I showed him Pikachu and I showed him my version of Pikachu, 2010 Pikachu. And then he looked at it. He said Pikachu's was a lot fatter back then. I remember I was really confused and I looked at him. I'm like, what do you mean? Anyways, afterward, he ended up going downstairs and going to this basement we had. When he went to the basement, I remember he ended up actually pulling out a box that was very, very old, like super dusty. And he basically placed it in front of me and said, here, wait, let me see if I got my Pokemon cards. I remember I looked at him like, wait, Dad, you have Pokemon cards? I remember I was freaking out. Like this was like one of the coolest things ever and definitely a father-son connection. When he ended up taking out this cool like old binder that he ended up showing me all these really cool Pokemon cards. But the thing about them was that I thought they were fake because all the Pokemon cards looked super old and did not look realistic. And it got to the point where, like, don't get me wrong, it had all the same names as the original Pokemon that I play with nowadays. It didn't seem real. All of them had like the #1 edition on them, and then some of them had like really weird holographics, and let's just say like the coloring on them looked very faint. I remember I asked my dad, like, are these real, Dad? Like, are these actually Pokemon cards? And he told me these were Pokemon cards of my time. At that point, I think these were real. I didn't 100% do like proper research on them, but basically I searched up old Pokemon cards just to kind of see if I could like understand, because, well, I'm gonna be honest, no one's gonna search up first edition Pokemon cards when Pokemon cards weren't really valued yet at that time. And then I remembered I ended up seeing a card that was apparently super rare that most people did not have. Now, real Pokemon fans know if I say the word 1999 first edition shadowless holographic Charizard, you're incorrect. Apparently, the super rare card that I had was a first edition Red Cheeks Pikachu from 1999. Now, if you guys don't know, 1999 was when Pokemon cards initially released their first editions, which was very interesting. And on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, this card was in very good condition. And also, knowing it was the face of Pokemon, Pikachu, well, I took care of this thing like it was my life. Literally, I remember I would always wash it, I would always take care of it, and I would always just basically put it in the front cover of my binder to make sure that I could always see it, to make sure it doesn't get into any harm's way. I remember I basically always took care of this card, because knowing actually nowadays, in today's money, it's $4,250 worth is insane to me. If I still had that card, I would be extraordinary. Because I'm probably thinking, wait, Bubba, I thought you said that you had a card that was worth a lot more than that. And if you guys saw the title of this video, yes, I did, but just continue watching. I remember basically the next day when I went to school, I did bring my dad's Pokemon cards and mine as well. I organized them all by their HP, so sometimes they will be old cards and new cards all together. I remember I ended up going up to my friend group and I said, hey guys, like, yo, check out my new Pokemon cards. My dad gave me some of his. And when they went through my Pokemon cards, they saw all the old Pokemon cards. And when they did, they all looked at me and laughed. They said, these are fake, bro. These aren't Pokemon cards. And I remember one of the kids that used to always pick on me back in elementary school literally took my binder, started going through all the Pokemon cards and said, fake, fake, definitely fake. Fake card, definitely fake. And it got to the point where my eyes were tearing up. Knowing that people thought these were fake really pissed me off and honestly made me almost depressed. But at the time, I really wanted to make sure I did my father proud. So I stood up to them and said, oh yeah, like these are old Pokemon cards. These are like legendary. And I ended up pointing at the fat Pikachu that was from 1999 that was on the base set model with red cheeks. They all looked at me and laughed. And then one of the kids pulled out their iPod that they had and ended up searching it up and ended up seeing I was right. It was one of the rare cards. Right when I said it was a rare card, God, did I wish I had my binder on me, because my bully ended up taking the card and running away with it. I was really upset. I was so upset. And I remember it got to the point where I ran to that bully and started chasing him down, and I ended up jumping on him in the hallway, and teachers got involved. Teachers came around saying, what's going on? Like, why would you do that? And I basically said, oh, like he stole my Pokemon card. I basically explained the whole thing to the teacher and how he stole my Pokemon card and stuff. And then the teacher told me, here, why don't we all be nice and share the Pokemon? I remember this kid went into my binder again and said, sure, I'll share. And he ended up taking out my Charizard. Now, if you guys don't know, yes, surprisingly, and I didn't know this when I was organizing my cards, but apparently, without me knowing it, there was a 1999 holographic Charizard already in there that was first edition. To me, I thought it was just a Charizard card. And to be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of Charizard like everyone is today. But apparently, he was one of the rarest cards nowadays, to the point where some cards even go up to $1 million worth just for a Charizard. Kind of crazy. But anyways, I remember he ended up pulling out the Charizard, and it makes me cry when I say this, but he literally ripped it in half saying, this is definitely a fake card, and tore it in half. He legit tore it in half. He tore the Pokemon card that was so valuable in half. A first edition Charizard. You guys don't understand how much this thing is worth right now. It's worth more than $400,000. Like, you could buy a house with that. Honestly, kind of insane, but it is what it is. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also join me live on Twitch and on YouTube on Bubba Gaming. And like I always say, follow for more crazy stories. Peace out, guys.